Today, we're going to unpack a very well-known James Clear quote, maybe well-known to people like us. And it's this idea that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems, right? To help us explore what this quote means for leadership teams, we're going to play a clip and then discuss it from Brené Brown and Adam Grant in a recent episode of her Dare to Lead podcast. For a bit of context here, they're talking about a concept that Brené writes about in her new book, Strong Ground, called pocket presence, right? It's sort of the ability to stay calm under pressure, be situationally aware, and really to trust your team. Okay, so Joe, why don't we start this clip and we'll pause it a few times and have some discussion about it.
Let's do it.
One of the things we talk about when we do Dare to Lead transformations is you've got to build systems that are braver than people,
Mm,
because it's human nature to tap out of hard things sometimes. We're weary. I'm weary. Everybody gets weary. But
mm,
when she was onboarded into our organization, she was taught that if you're not given those, you must always ask for the 5 C's. She was taught if someone says something to you that's complex, you have to ask for a playback. You have to say, can I play back what I think I'm hearing? So we're going straight into James Clear. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. So to me, the kettlebell exercises that were in play there that really saved my ass. And by the way, that meeting went exactly how I wanted it to go and exactly how it would not have gone had I had my way. But the kettlebell exercises there are two. One, the 5 C's.
Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing in this clip here is this thing she says towards the very beginning, that you have to build systems that are braver than people. I imagine that probably is resonating for both of us as we hear this, Joe, because we wrote a book about this concept. In fact, this is more or less the case we're trying to make in chapter 1 of At the Heart of Work. Maybe not saying exactly this way, but just really appreciate the point that Brené is making here, right? And maybe I'd offer it a little bit differently to build upon what she's saying here, is that when we collaboratively design and bring intention to the systems that we collaborate within as a team, that it makes it a lot easier to show up with bravery and courage, as this person is in the example that she's describing here in this little story.
Yeah, I love that. What really resonated with me was how she was emphasizing the idea of we're weary. What
Mm,
she's speaking to is that
yeah.
the finite nature of human courage,
Hmm.
tenacity, grit,
Hmm.
discipline, right? At the end of the day, we need systems because we know how influential they are on the workplace conditions,
Yeah.
but we also need them because we're not superhumans, right? That
Yeah.
have an endless level of courage. And if you think about even the leaders who are, level 5 at, discipline, courage, bravery, even
Mm,
those leaders will tap out, right? There's
yeah.
only so much that we have to give. And so in those moments, we rely on our systems, right,
Yeah.
to support us in these moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this.
I love that you noticed the weary part, Joe. I mean, I think you and I have been in a season of leading a lot of workshops and kind of hyper, um, just a lot of client engagements too. And we kind of always hear this, but I think what I'm hearing at an even increased pace right now is that we're just so busy. We're firefighting. Oftentimes when we ask teams, like, what's keeping you from doing the work required to strengthen the systems to build, or even just to like have a higher performing leadership team, more simply put, it's like we just don't have time. Like we're
Yeah.
so busy firefighting. I heard it again from like 4 leaders yesterday in a workshop that I led, and it just makes me, in a different way, they're saying we're weary, right?
Mhm.
And so when you're weary, when you're busy, when you're overloaded, I mean, it just feels so hard to show up and be courageous and challenge a leader, especially in the context that the story Brené is sharing here is a also structural dynamic. This leader is challenging up. I'm
Yeah.
assuming. I don't know
Yeah.
their structure of their organization, but I'm assuming Brené is.
Renee's up there.
Yeah, if nothing else, even if she's not the CEO of their organization, she sure is, I'm assume, considered as someone with massive influence, right? So,
Right. It's an
so
influence.
what that person still felt was able to muster that because of the investment they made.
Well, that's what I also loved about this one because it's a little bit off the specific quote that you called out here.
Yeah.
But when it comes to systems, teach and then normalize. Teach
Mm,
and then teach and then make it a norm. She was teaching us in that moment how they made that part of their system. We
mm,
trained on it and then
mhm,
it became a norm. We trained on
mhm,
this and it
mhm,
became a norm. If you're listening and you're wondering how to get started with bringing more intentionality to your organizational systems, teach those who are a part of that
mhm,
system whatever it
mhm,
is you want them to do, right?
mhm, mhm.
Define it, bring the clarity, right? Is what sometimes it's just clarity, sometimes it's capacity building and clarity, and then
Yeah,
make it the norm, right?
yeah,
And that's because they just have this system for doing that.
yeah,
This leader felt completely comfortable. Well, we don't know how comfortable they felt, but they were able to leverage that system in that moment
yeah.
and deliver on that norm. Super
Mm.
powerful.
Joe, this is making me think. I'm hearing the part of the clip in my head as you talked about making it a norm, where she was like, because we onboarded her to this, right? Because we made it clear this is a part of how we want to work, that it then kind of created this big permission structure for her to do that. But there was also this moment for Brene, right, where I think, in whether you think of it as like being disciplined or her also being courageous, in a weird way, I kind of see it as courageous, maybe not in the more traditional sense, but Brené also had to receive it,
Mhm.
right? And be like, yes, this is this is the very thing happening that we have said we want to happen. And in that moment, had she not accepted it, had she kind of dismissed or moved on, and by the way, we're all, the best leaders all have these moments. We're all human. We have bad days, etc. But that would be working against the very thing that they're trying to build. And I think I'm emphasizing this because we're talking about norms and culture, and it's like you create it, you train on it, but then you've got these real moments, right, where the people are seeing like what's actually a norm, like what's
Yeah.
actually happening. I
Yeah.
can challenge anybody in the organization and ask for the 5 C's, and they're going to be in it with me. They're not going to bail. Like they're going to be like, "This is who we are. We're going to do it. We're going to work through this together."
Yeah. Sean, what you're reminding me of is that title of our book, At the Heart of Work Are People and Systems. The system
Hmm.
set up the moment, right? But there was a real moment of on the people side, Brené's response,
Hmm.
right, to this that actually made it move forward, right? And
Yeah.
she could have in that moment done anything to shut it down, right? To not
Nope.
model curiosity, open posture, seek to understand, right? And could have shut it down and it would have started to push back on the system, right?
Yeah.
But she brought that leadership, she brought that people piece, and it was the combination of these two that made for this beautiful moment of some tension and some resistance and some
Hmm.
you know we're a little bit misaligned here drive towards this moment of cohesion, right, and resolution, which
Hmm.
was really powerful.